my secret. Just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Joe Bernardo, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Ryan Carpio,
Elaine Delalis, and
Mike.
Producer Mike. Yay!
Like, did Joe introduce himself? And I was like, oh, wait, he was the one who started this.
Yes, I started it.
That's how this works. Mike's forgotten. But we have a special co-host with us today.
Hey, it's Kat. Hi.
Yay.
Hi, Kat.
Hey.
Kat,
Welcome back, Kat.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Oh my gosh, we love having you on.
I like being here.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And now we have, who is our TFAL of the episode, Elaine?
TFAL of the episode is Nicole Espina.
Nicole.
Hey.
Espina.
Oh my God. Hey, Nicole. I don't know Nicole.
Right.
You tend to know people, so I'm surprised this time.
I just say it.
I had an old dentist, Dr. Espina. So if you're related to Dr. Espina, who is in Eagle Rock, please let me know.
Is that a common last name?
Why, Joe? You want discount? Oh man.
I went to
Espina's a
high
pretty
school with
common name.
someone with that last name. I feel like it might be a little common.
I'm sure
it-
it's common.
Was it Nicole?
No, it was not.
Just checking.
I mean, I hope it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
And today we also have a new voicemail.
Ooh.
And this is in response to the text that we you all read a couple episodes ago.
Oh,
In my
The-
best
the-
12-year-old
the
books.
text 12-year-old kid text. That
Yeah,
one?
from DC. From DC.
Oh, cool. Wait, is this him? Well, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Sorry.
Yeah. This is actually the person's father
Oh, cool.
called in. Yeah.
Yo! Hi, TFAL team. My name is Andre. Last name is Javier Berry, hyphenated. I was listening to your Lingua Franca show the other night, and you started off with a text. And I said, wait, that kind of sounds like my son. And so that's my son that texted you all for the Lingua Franca episode. Absolutely wonderful. He has been listening to the show pretty religiously, and I introduced it to him a while ago, but he's the one that sort of listens all the time now. But we love the show. It's fantastic. You all do a wonderful job, and it's great. It's empowering to hear you all talking during the show. For me, it kind of feels like you all are like cousins, and we're just all sitting, papa in the living room, family room, just hanging out and talking. So thank you for the important work that you all are doing. Just a really funny story. When I was reading the Lingua Franca, and it was Ana DuVernay's Arai Studios, I was like, wow, man, Ana DuVernay, like, Arai, ouch, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize it was array. But anyway, thank you so much. Yes, we are in DC. I would love to, if there was a way to have sections or book clubs where your fans could talk about your show, that would be awesome. But would love to. Just became a Patreon as well. Thank you for all your work. You all are leaders for the Phil-Am community, and thank you so much. Again, my name is Andre. If y'all want to reach out to me, I'd love to talk. Number is 202.
Oh, wait, let's not say his
Let's
phone
not
number.
start that. There you go.
Let's not have him get prank called. But thanks, Andre.
That was awesome.
That's cool.
Yo.
Andre.
That's cool.
That's hella cool. I mean, what I heard is that we should be starting up fight clubs in every town.
No, dude. We have
You don't
to talk about it.
You don't talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it.
No, but there was an idea of starting like a Facebook fan group. A fan actually emailed me one time and said they wanted to start one.
Is it
And
for
I said,
everyone or just
no, whoever wants to
fans?
join, whoever wants to do it. But it's only fans, dude.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, that's totally doable. If folks out there want to start their own group, let us know, and I don't know, we'll talk about it.
We should make mascot logo style things like isn't it like BTS who has like those lion characters where it's like a sheep and like we need like cartoon representations of ourselves.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Are you
And then people
saying
have joined
what?
specific fandoms, like the Ryan fandom will be like
Mike, are you
Jerseys.
saying you want BTS Army? You want like TFAL Army? Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
Oh, that's cute.
if I can't
I
have my
don't wanna
fight club,
be
then
No, I don't want to be in charge of an army.
I want an
sounds frightening.
association. Is that okay?
Oh my god. Are we going to be the TFAL Association at Vicinity?
and
This is what's happening.
TFAL Association.
The TFAL Barangay Los Angeles, TFAL Barangay DC, TFAL Barangay New York.
Get your raffle tickets ready.
Right?
I do like the Fight Club idea. That'd be fun. But anyways, hi everyone.
Hey,
Hey.
We're back.
Hey.
we
We're all
are
back. And we are here. We are going to talk about. Speaking of empowering, we are going to be talking about taking people down.
Oh,
Wait,
Oh, my.
but before we take you down, I want to encourage you all on October 10th, Saturday, October 10th at 3 p.m. to join us. What are we going to do, Ryan? Do you know?
Oh, we're doing the live show.
yeah, the TFL
Yeah.
virtual live show.
That's right.
Storytelling, drinks, and grub. So if you're in LA, you can pick up a drink and grub combo thing from Geneva and Hi-Fi Kitchen at Geneva and possibly delivered if you're within a certain mileage of the delivery. But if you're not in LA, you can buy a Zoom only ticket for only $20 and you get us and all our
That's
shenanigans.
right.
And we may do something crazy. You never know. But also, this show will not be released as an episode. So it'll be super exclusive.
Sounds so
for
special.
OnlyFans.
It's
Muy special.
sounds very special. I like it.
Hey, Kat, do you know what OnlyFans is?
I don't think so. No.
Neither did I until you guys started talking about it.
I thought we
Liar.
were talking about the fan. Well, I just have
Oh,
a
no.
fan on
So
in my house.
OnlyFans is another platform where you can interact with your fans in a possibly blue type situation.
Yes. Blue.
Oh.
Blue, like
Dodger Blue?
dangerous, like
Yeah.
Dodger blue,
Oh.
like Bastos blue.
Oh, got it.
Past
Bastos.
tense.
So you mean I've been joking about OnlyFans and that's what it means? Aw,
I
guys.
I learned
Gals.
something new every
Aw.
day.
Stop making it seem like I am Bastos.
All right, we should move on.
But you
Yeah, I'm
can get
canceling you,
tickets.
Ryan, for being Bastos.
Yeah.
You can get tickets. For more information for tickets, go to our Instagram at TFL Podcast. And if you hit the link in our bio, you will find the link to the Eventbrite. It is probably too long for me to say. So just do that and you can
Yeah.
get a ticket.
All
be fun.
right. Thanks, Elaine.
Yeah.
So the voicemail that we heard was talking about empowering the community. I want to talk about how we not empower the community.
Okay.
No, I want to talk about cancel culture, call out culture, whatever. Is there any kind of names, other names for that?
I think
Critique
those are-
culture.
which one?
Critique culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Deconstructive criticism.
Unpacking.
I
Unpacking.
made that one.
Pettiness.
Pettiness.
Petty.
Oh,
Oops.
going there.
You know, on the
Oh.
other side of that, accountability. You know,
Accountability, yes.
Mm.
holding truth to power in certain situations.
Yeah.
What?
There's different sides to it. So what are we talking about? We are talking about I don't know if it's a trend, but I guess it's something that's been in the public discourse more often than not lately, particularly in social media, and it's I guess cancel culture or call it culture. And it's not just within the Filipino American community. Our current stupid president has been talking about it, right? But this idea of calling people out, particularly on social media, for whatever kind of criticism, opinions that one has of a certain person or group or any kind of body, in order for them to reform their ways. And there's been a few examples, particularly in the Filipino American community. We won't go into too many details on that. There may be an incident where a certain watering hole / restaurant in a city on the East Coast was
so vague.
called out.
Well, I think for this one you
Or-
could actually say it because
We won't get sued.
they're not that name anymore. They agreed to change the name of their restaurant.
Okay.
And
So
we're
they're-
talking about Wendy's.
Exactly.
But continue on, Joe.
No, so there's an incident where the restaurant called Barcada was called out because it was owned by non-Filipinos, and they were actually just using the name, and a lot of Filipino Americans, especially in the DC area, got really upset about that and called them out for cultural appropriation. There's been incidents among Filipino-owned businesses who are maybe viewed as not doing business in a good, honorable, moral way. They have been called out. There's been
And we have.
organizations.
We've
Yeah.
been called out.
Absolutely.
In 2016, early in our run, we did an episode about the use of the term Filipinx. And at the time we were like, this is, we were younger in our podcast phase, and we were like, this is not for us. But we didn't say it that friendly. And on Twitter, we got into a bit of an exchange with somebody. And frankly, the whole experience, I learned a lot. And I realized, you know what? If you're going to use Filipinx, good for you. That is your identity. Go for it. If I'm not going to use it, that's good for me because it's not my identity. I'm not going to claim anything that's not. But I'm also going to be respectful, right? It took a while to get there, but I got there. And that is where calling out or calling in is helpful because the parties involved learn. However, the internet does not have a lot of these teachable moments because you just end up yelling at somebody in all caps.
But so, go ahead, Kat. Oh no, sorry, no.
Sorry.
You're waving your hand.
I'm just waving to say hi.
No, so I was speaking of that, I wanted to actually ask you all before we get into the deeper conversation. We're all users of social media. Have you ever been called out in any kind of way, minute or big, in your some odd years as a social media entity?
Let me start. I'm gonna say, not if it's not unless it's fun or funny. I get called out for being a Clippers fan. That's funny. Apparently, right? Why aren't you a Lakers fan? Oh, Clippers. There's another LA team. I get called out for that. I mean, it's not really my identity. Well, I guess part of it is an identity, but it's not really that meaningful, right? So, and also, to be perfectly honest, I've kind of disengaged from social media in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, though, I have urges to call somebody else out on social media when I see something, but I tend to sort of focus my energy on texting Joe instead and go, look at this. I'm so mad at this. But I don't want to do anything on social media. And I think part of it is just because I know how social media can get. And unless I was intentional about the direction I want to take something, I'm not really going to. I've chosen personally not to really use social media to spread that. Whatever my opinion on something might be, I've really like held back. So I wanted to start that way, from that end of the spectrum of like, most of my social media posts are I would like to say fairly innocent. It's like usually cheering for a sports team, a picture of a nice place. But in terms of the days of testimonials on Friendster, like those are the most positive things that people can say about you. But social media has taken a turn where a lot of it is not really that positive, or there's as much negative and as there is positive, I would say. So on my end, I don't get it because I don't really dish it. So I'm sort of not that visible.
So I have actually been not like doxed or anything, but like I have shared, or I have I have shared maybe like an off-color joke, and I was kind of called out for it, maybe called in, I'm not sure. It was public, and I immediately deleted the post. And I think in that 5 minutes that it happened, I felt very like defensive, yet I still felt very vulnerable. And I guess after a while, after it kind of it subsided, I felt very I guess I learned something from it, which was nice. But I guess at that moment, it was just a mix of emotions. And yeah. How about you all?
Well, that Philippine X convo.
Yeah.
That was like totally like a call out, or it was, I feel like call in is like more personal. Like people will like DM you to do that or whatnot, or they'll, but if it's public, I feel like that's a call out. I mean, I could be wrong. That's just my personal opinion. And, going through that, I learned that considering impact rather than intent, because we may have intended, or I may have intended, or you could have intended it for it to be a joke, right? But the impact is harm. And so gone are the days of like throwing away random tweets or whatnot, because that stuff bites you in the ass. Like, like things that I wrote on MySpace, I'm horrified what's on there. I don't even know what my account looks like, but dude, I probably flamed like so many random things, or like, just because I'm talking out of my ass, right? And so like now you're like, oh, okay, because we essentially all grew up on social media in a weird, wild time. We weren't cognizant of like this will last forever. The whole element of like be careful what you post didn't really happen until I was in grad school, and that was 10 years ago. And like I was doing like career center workshops about don't post yourself being drunk on Facebook because it'll be bad to an employer. So like,
yeah, Ryan.
It's just Ryan. it's a hard lesson. And then I think as you get older, I've learned sometimes you just don't need to say anything. You can just watch, eat popcorn, and watch the hilariousness and pettiness of call out culture happen to somebody else.
Yeah, I haven't. I feel like it's really happened during this presidential administration that I've gotten a lot more like just hypersensitive about what I say. Before that, like healthy debate in politics and things like that, it was nothing to me. I have family that I love very much, yet we have different political views. But now that we're all online, I mean, it can get rough. And, I have to remember that These are people that I love. And so I will say that maybe for me, it's more of what's internal now. Like I really control what I say. I'm not very vocal online because I think about like what the relatives who disagree with me, like I just don't even want to go there. And I will say how it makes me feel. Like I get stressed out. Like there are things that I want to say, but I'm like, oh great, my uncle's going to call me out. And while I can go toe to toe, and there are a couple times that I have, I don't like it. I have family members who can do it all day, and I'll agree with who I agree with. But yeah, so I think I feel like I've kind of consciously docked kind of getting called out. So because it just sounds so stressful.
Mike,
I don't know if I've actually been like called out because I tend to kind of I haven't really engaged in that way in social media in a long time either. Like I mean I'll the other thing that I tend to do, and I know people say this is a bad thing, but one, like I tend to curate my social media feeds to be of like-minded people, and so therefore it end up being in a very much an echo chamber, for better or for worse. So if I post something that's like in my own kind of political viewpoint, usually it's also in alignment with the people that I am friends with on social media for the most part. I don't engage with anybody who I feel completely politically different from, just because I don't like doing that online. I'd rather do that in person if I had to. The other thing is like I very much overthink everything that I post anyways. And so like I kind of put a lot of thought into things. I don't kind of knee-jerk kind of like post things for the most part. I also don't use Twitter because I feel like that's definitely the space in which you're most likely to kind of just fire off a thing that you'll probably regret saying later. But no, I mean, I think and I think we've all referenced this in a little bit different ways, right? Like, there is calling out versus calling in. There's like calling out versus what I was saying earlier about like, holding truth to power. And yeah, it does come down to kind of like intent, but also kind of like being realistic about kind of impacts on both sides. I mean, if I call somebody out, and it's not like a funny thing, like, like Ryan was saying earlier, like it's because like, somehow or another, I feel like the thing that I'm going to say is going to make that person understand that the thing that they've done is wrong and for these reasons. I mean, I don't do that often unless, I feel like it can be in kind of a conversation as opposed to like just a call out that I can just let sit there and kind of like have its effect, I guess. But no, I mean, like if I'm going to be the person to call someone else out, I have to be realistic about like what is my actual impact going to be on that conversation and on myself as it kind of received kind of that. And then I do the whole, like, who am I to like call that person out? And if someone ever calls me out, which I feel like hasn't really happened on social media, at least in person, maybe. I think my responses to that is to automatically apologize and correct. Because it's easier for me to do that in the instance rather than kind of just sit there and stew with it and try to figure out, well, are they right or am I right? Because if in the end of the day I feel like I was actually right, then I'll just repost the thing that I said or the thing that I did, or but those are kind of things that like I have to like feel like I can engage with on a one-on-one level, right? Like when it becomes like this social media thing where it's like we're all in kind of like these kind of battling kind of like factions, it becomes really hard to kind of get like a cogent conversation out of that.
Yeah, it's like, what's the use at that point? I mean, nothing good.
It all becomes noise.
Good. Yeah. And stress.
Well, those are, a lot of these experiences have been kind of on the individual level, right? Which is a little bit easier to rectify, right? But, like for example, TFAL has a certain position or has a certain, we're a group. We are, I don't know, some people call us an institution, right? We are institution.
We're an institution?
Maybe, like in a small, very, very small, minute way.
An association?
At vicinity?
But, we have been called out before, right? For example, I remember we did the episode where we talked about Philippine films, and it was the one with Marie Jamora, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing a comment on Twitter saying that, like, wow, you can hear the Filipino American privilege oozing out of this conversation, right? And it was just some random, it was some random comment on Twitter, right? And so for me, like, it's, how do you kind of rectify these things as like as a group, as opposed to like an individual on social media, right? Because it's a little different.
It is a little different, and I think part of being like a mini institution is that responsibility of what you're putting out there. So we made a conscious decision as a group to be public. We made a conscious decision to have our voices be heard, wherever we lean, and we have to be able to take it. I think we have to be able to take that. We're not going to always have just our OnlyFans. We would have other folks that would criticize us, whatever their intent might be. I think that's the part that on a larger scale, that's essentially what we're talking about here in terms of how important is it for people to call us out versus calling an individual out, right? I think that there's two ways that I would think about it, because if someone calls me out on a personal level, most of the people that have called me out on a personal level is because I've hurt them. I've done some things that I should probably apologize for, and I mean something to them. And so I would take it that way. I would take any kind of criticism as a learning method for us as an institution to be able to do that, because we have to be responsible in some way, right? We have to be responsible as whatever we are. We put ourselves out there, and so we should be responsible for our position on things. Here's where the second part where I tend to kind of shy away from is, I don't think we have to have an opinion on everything as an institution or even as individuals. And I think in this culture that we have, like on social media, it fires people up in a way that you almost have to choose a side. And if you don't choose a side, like, who are you? That's, like, all of a sudden you're an enemy, right? It totally is divisive in some way. And quite frankly, there's a lot of things I don't give a shit about it. I just really don't on social media. And what Kat was saying earlier, it's so stressful to have an opinion on something. I don't care. I really don't care that much, So anyway, I think Kat raised her hand, and then Elaine. So
yeah, to your point, that's actually something. I'm a marketer by profession, and I've learned over the years. And we run a large social media accounts, and something that I've learned to say is, I don't feel strongly either way, And then we have a discussion about it when we have, because we get shown a lot of love, but we get called out a lot too, because we're, we have a lot of followers. I think that's part of it. But and I know, Lainey, you may have something to say, but I also just wanted to ask the question: do you think people come looking for this kind of call in, either being the one, like, how people could be like, fight me, like they want to put it out there and say, fight me, or, for people who go to look to call people out?
Yeah, I do think, to answer that question, yes, I think people, they like the smoke. Like, some people, like, the saying, like, catch all the smoke, like, come at me. Some people want that engagement, and like the engagement online, you're able to like puff your chest up and say that you are doing something, right? But something that our resident reality checker has checked us on was like, why should you care? Like, why are you devoting or putting so much energy into this? Is it worth your energy? And like, it finally hit me, maybe because I'm old and my birthday just passed, but because I'm only 25. So,
Right. Me too.
Happy belated.
But like, I've learned, like, do I need to care about this? Like, do I need to devote any energy to this? Like, no, I don't have to. Like, and that is like legit, like a growth aspect on me, because it's like, I don't need to care. Like sometimes I'll look at something on social media, like if there's like a Twitter beef that's happening, I'll be like, oh, let me eat some popcorn and then delve into this. And then the moment I start to feel like anxious, or like the moment I'm about to like tweet back, I'm like, why? Like what good would this do? Is this even worth it? And then like, do I want the smoke? Absolutely not. So I walk away, because it's like, it's not my fight. Like a lot of people get on Twitter or whatnot, or on Instagram or whatever. It's like, you're fighting, but like, what good is it? Like, is that what will that gain you at the end of the day? Like,
well, I think a lot of it has to do with people who do look for it, and I think there's a fine line also, right? There's a fine line between actually like real good critique, try to make people accountable for what they do, but there's also, you know, the when you cross that line, it's more about like that person, or you know, that person trying to condemn another person to exercise a kind of like moral superiority on their part, right? In a very strange way, to like, basically, if I'm calling someone out, then I am moral superior to you because I understand. I'm basically more woke than you, right? And then it kind of, in a way, disavows their own kind of complicity to into whatever the unequal justice that's happening, right?
yes.
Does that make sense?
It reminds me of a question that we got at the beginning, in June, like during a lot of the Black Lives Matter marches, and somebody asked for our opinion, right, on our feedback on a question where like they were going to marches and protests and rallies, and they had a sign that said, they had their own sign that said Filipinx for Black Lives, right? Or Philippine Lives for Black Lives Matter. And the question they had asked us was, is that okay? Like, is it okay? They were asking for confirmation and validation on their own protest sign. And like, legit, I don't believe we have that power to tell you yes or no, it's okay. You know, like we are 4 individuals, 5 including Kat, but this happened before you were like, you know, our mini co-host. And like, I was just like, look, you're obviously showing that you're trying to show support for this movement. Thank you for doing that. But I have no say in how to validate you, because like, you don't need my validation. At the end of the day, you have to own yourself, right? It's kind of like how I advise undergrads as an advisor. Like a lot of people look to me and like, is this schedule okay? Is this path okay? Am I doing the right thing? And I'm literally like, my job is not to tell you you're doing the right thing. My job is to show you the paths that you can take, and you get to take those paths. But I'm not going to say that, yes, this is how you're going to be a nurse, or yes, this is how you're going to be a teacher. I'm going to show you this is how you can be those things. But at the end of the day, you have to make the choice, right? Like you make the choice. And I think with call out culture, a lot of it is people are either trying to validate their choices or show that their choices are the right ones. They're trying, it's like the call out cancel culture feels like a element of the woke Olympics that is just like, I don't want to participate in because it's not fun. No one wins.
What about when the call out is totally valid? You know, like how do we address that? Because I mean, like what I guess what I was trying to allude to earlier was, you know, when you're talking about like speaking truth to power, like theoretically it's a situation in which there is a more powerful you know, side or person in that conversation, and you're trying to call out like an injustice or, you know, an impact that is undue. And it's kind of like when people call out like celebrities, for example, right? Like on the one hand, people complain like, are we just going to make every single celebrity have to be a perfect person? On the other side of that, you could say people who are representative of the culture and are in front of millions of people should be accountable to the things that they say. Especially if they do something that harms another person or group. And so it's like finding that balance, right? And so like, you know, in situations in which it's like, if we got called out for doing something that like might cause harm or hurt, you know, intended or not, like a certain group or person, Is it okay for people to call us out or hold us accountable for that?
Yeah, I think that's what I said, that there's a fine line between actually holding someone accountable and just trying to be heard or trying to be on a soapbox, right? I think there is a fine line, and I think, for example, do you remember the incident that happened in San Francisco where a Filipino person was putting Black Lives Matter in front of his apartment,
Yeah.
right?
In chalk.
And then in chalk,
Yeah.
yeah. And then a white couple basically like said, "You don't live here. What are you talking about? Why are you doing this? I'm going to call the police." And then the person, the Filipino, like videotaped that person, right? This is kind of extreme, but like, people on social media basically called the couple out and found their employers, doxed them basically, yeah. And so I don't know what they're doing now. Is that morally right to do that? I maybe is that holding them accountable? What do you think?
I mean, they were racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, Kat's right. They were.
Here I go.
It's so funny because the like, imagine you're the employer and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Yeah.
Because now you're going to get called out if you don't do anything about it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's almost this a domino effect of things. And that's a tough question. In terms of what the effects of videotaping is, right? If the effects of it is like all of a sudden you got these vigilantes that are now researching where these people live and where they work. Yeah. To be quite honest with you, on a personal level, there's a certain feeling of kind of like good for them for getting caught in videotape, right? There's this like almost like instant karma feeling on a personal level, but does that help the situation, or does it just create further divide, or does it, did they learn anything from it? Or could they have learned something from it without being fired from their job or without them being harassed, So that's I don't know, Joe. I don't know what the answer to that.
I don't know either, because for example, in the Filipino community, there have been small businesses, there have been like longtime community leaders who have been called out for one thing or another, right? And I don't think critique and criticism is anything new, right? That's kind of as old as time, right? But I think with social media, communication lines have been so amplified, right? And so much more public, where it becomes, I don't know, everything is public.
Especially now, though, because like we're all at home in front of our computers and phones, like constantly, because we have to be, or it's the only choice that we have. And I think what happens though is that it gets robbed of all context, like a video, a post, like, especially talking about like, going back to like my old like, live journal or MySpace posts or anything like. I've got through like my live journal archives and like, I don't know if like I would say this in the way that I said this like 20 years ago. But like contextually, it made sense for like why I was in my life, for the way that like the culture was at the time, all those things, you know what I mean? And so like that's not to excuse things that we've done or said, but I mean like, again, like I think if I were in a situation in which I could theoretically call someone out or not call someone out, like I would again go back to what I was saying earlier, which is, would doing something like calling them out actually impact the situation that is truly happening, right? Like if you were to call me out for an old live journal post, what am I supposed to do about that? Go back to like my 20s and tell myself to shut the fuck up, versus like if I was going to do something that like, harmed a group of folks, like I did something today and like use like, a phrasing or like approach that like could cause harm, then like I could be corrected theoretically. And
it's totally the approach, right? Because LiveJournal was like, it's like a blog, right? Like you're writing a personal essay to say that like the Executioners are a shitty DJ group or something like that. I'm assuming that is what Mike wrote in his LiveJournal. I have no idea. Mike, how dare you? Why would you say that about the Executioners? Yes, Fifth Platoon is really good. You know, something like that. I feel like that is where Mike was going in his LiveJournal's approach. But like, it's an essay. There's a lot of words. On Twitter, for a while, it was only 140 characters. So people were just getting direct and to the point and saying, you're stupid, you're dumb, this is dumb. I wish so-and-so was blah, blah, blah. Like it's the nuance is gone in the way people call out each other. Like the nuance is gone. Not that there was much nuance on Zanga when you're like, this boba shop is the better one compared to this boba shop, you know, something like that.
Yeah, you've really it is the nuance is gone, and that's what I think is the cause for a lot of this anxiety, right? Like it can be so extreme to the point that it really, you know, because we all experience feelings or even traumas in certain ways that it can be so extreme for someone. And I noticed that's the process that I go through. Like, you know, going back to the you know, the person in San Francisco, I think that there is also an intersectional element to it, right? Like, I know for me, I will turn on my camera and put it on live if I feel like I'm being threatened physically. Like if I was that dude or that person and that couple came up to me and doing that, like I would probably feel like, okay, my life may be threatened, so I'm going to record it, because if I'm by myself, I need someone to, you know.
Yeah.
But then you don't think about all of, you know, it's become such a tightrope, right? Because what happens to the employers of those people? They have whatever stakeholders, and, you know, they start thinking all the way down, you know, it's like immediate. It's like you have to immediately think about like the rest of this, or, you know, and there have been celebrities too. Like, remember the whole Kevin Hart, like, you know, he was, you know, he made a homophobic remark years and years ago, and then it cost him a hosting gig for something.
For the Oscars.
Yeah. And, you know, and he was, you know, if I remember correctly, he apologized, and then he went on to be like, I'm done apologizing, because that was him. Like, he grew since then.
And it was never enough.
In thought. Yeah. And it was never, it's like,
enough.
What do you do? You know, like for some people it's survival. For some people, you know, that have privilege, it may or may not affect them. And it just seems like the stakes are so,
elevated.
Yeah. And it kind of, you know, to me, I feel like it works my nerves a little bit. And it's like, how can we be, I guess my wish is like, how can we be more like caring, you know? And
yeah, I was thinking about, and I kind of want to get into like calling out kind of like across, like, you know, some people talk about punching up and punching down, but like when people like kind of punch across, like, you know, like what are the implications of that, especially in the Filipino community, right? Like I was thinking about DJ Qbert, and he went a little wild on Twitter a while ago, and he got called out by folks, but also got called in by folks. You know what I mean? Like some people were just like pillorying him for all the things he was saying. He was kind of going on a whole QAnon thing. But at the same time, some people were reaching out to him individually, just trying to see like, yo, you okay? What are you doing? Do you understand what you're saying here? Not to say that one or the other approach is better or worse, but I mean, I think like, you know, is he somebody in like who has like certain power? He has a certain celebrity, has a certain level of privilege. But you know, I mean, I think like the things that I'm noticing, maybe because I've just noticed more of it on like social media, is just like, you know, Filipinos definitely going at each other for different things here and there.
Yeah, in some really passionate ways.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, man, are we really? Is this what? Sometimes I read these things like, is this what we're coming to? Where it's so aggressive. It's like, I've got to say that viscerally. It doesn't feel comfortable, even though like I don't want us to ever lose our passion to speak truth to power, right?
Well, a lot of it is like, I think the way social media is set up, like you think you have a relationship with the
Mm.
person on the other side of the screen, right? Like a lot of the people are like, oh, I know them based on what is being put out on social media by that person. When in actual reality, like a lot of people who are calling Qbert out, like they may not have known him. They probably only knew him from his music. But then like when his actual people in his circle called him out, I don't know, but hopefully it was helpful. But like for us, like I don't know, like a few of us have experienced it where folks come up to us and they're like, oh, it's like I know you. And it's weird because they do know us, right? Like they know us from what we share on the podcast, but it's not reciprocal. Like I have no idea what your life is like, person listening to the show, right? Unless you are my family, unless you're my friends, unless you are the 4 other people that I'm looking at right here in this Zoom. And I think that's hard for folks to wrap their head around, is that like sometimes the relationship is one way.
Mm-hmm. Incomplete story. Yeah. That you know of someone.
Ryan, you're going to say something?
No, I was going to agree with Elaine. I was going to talk about kind of like in that Qbert example, I wonder who the people are that called him in. I imagine the people who called him in are the people who actually care about him, right? Who cared about him to say, hey, let's talk this out. And then the people who are calling him out on social media are people who don't know really how else to say their opinion without blasting someone. And or what Elaine said, like I sort of know him. I know what he's about. I know his name. He's a public figure. I'm gonna go ahead and spew whatever I want to spew to call him out, because I'm not about that. But the ones that call him in are the people that actually care about him, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a distinction there about this whole idea of like getting someone accountable and then just spewing your thoughts about something. And I'm going to just go out on a little bit of a limb here. I think that's where opinion and fact become a lot more important to distinguish. Where if we are trying to help educate someone, we do it with facts, and we do it with historical facts, with things that are actually true. If we're gonna highlight it, that's what it can be about. If you want to hold someone accountable, and then on the other side, it's like, if maybe your opinions you just keep to yourself if it's complete opinion. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, what if like the thing is like the current kind of climate makes me not even want to engage, right? It makes like
right.
we all talked about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then like how do we critique something? How do we like hold somebody accountable when you're even afraid to talk, right? Or like what if I don't have a relationship with Qbert or something? Right. Or I don't. So, what is my way to kind of, to call him out, to hold him accountable to certain things? Do I do I just hold my tongue?
I wish we had Karen Tongson on to ask her this, because it's very much like a pop cultural critique situation. Like, how do you have media criticism in the age of social media, right? Because like in the past, you would, at least in my experience with critical media theory, like it's more like you watch something, you interpret it, and then you factor in like the news cycle, you factor in the climate of the country or where you're at, and then you can interpret it that way, and then you make your critique in like an op-ed or like some type of essay or a dissertation. But these days, people are doing that in such rapid form because the news cycle is like, snap your fingers, it's different, right? Like we literally went from RBG dying to Breonna Taylor not getting justice today because the Louisville grand jury only had indicted one cop, and not for her death, but for the damage to the property. So, like that cycle just went like that. And then literally the next thing is that Trump just said that he wasn't going to do a transition of power like peacefully. Like that just happened within 48 hours.
Right. Like, and how are people supposed to have space to
Yeah.
even, process. Because when you're talking about critique, like that is a thoughtful process. You watch it, you write it, you think about it, you write it, you maybe have an editor. And, and we don't, now it is that rapid fire that you could potentially regret the next day because you were angry or you were hangry or whatever, and it seems like the collective care is like, I wish I just saw more of it out in the world of this level of collective care, or having this feeling of okay, are they all right? And we do that with the people we know. But to see the way
I wish
so
people would
quick.
do it for the people you didn't know.
Yes, you like have the benefit of the doubt, and then you can ask, do you, but it's also tricky too, right? Because you don't always want to be questioning them, like,
You don't want to be a chump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you really feel that way? I mean, and then you're like, I said what I said, and then it just starts tumbling, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was this quote that I would have in my office, and I learned it from another mentor that she would say to us, and it was like that: be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And I remember I learned that in like a counseling a meeting, and I was like, oh, you know what? Because I was being an asshole to people. Like I was judging people, and I was being like a dick to them, and like I really did not have that in my forefront to consider that. And that was me being like a young person, because that's just how it was. And I think a lot of social media is people forgetting that. Like people are forgetting that, like when you come to the table, right? When you come to the imaginary internet table, we all have all our baggage. No one is free of it. But people attack each other like they are free of it, right? And I'm just having flashbacks of CCD. Like it's straight up like throw the first stone. Like Jesus is like throw the first stone if you're like no sins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no one could, because
That's how Jesus said it.
Yeah,
No
Jesus
sins,
was
right?
like
Abridged. That's the New American abridged version.
It's the-
Taught
Jesus
like,
in
yo,
Catholic
throw the
elementary.
first
Jesus was like,
Jesus was like, yo,
Throw
motherfucker,
it. Throw it. Come on.
throw
Come
this stone, throw these bricks.
Let-
I'm going to
let
call
me-
you
You are
out.
without sin.
I'm gonna take a crack at what you were saying, Joe. Like how do you engage, right? How do you engage? So here's my thing about like what we were talking about, impact and intent, right? I think my opinion is that and my opinion's worthless, but I think the engagement, if you want to engage in a meaningful way, we have to be okay understanding that people may not want to learn, right? Because the if you want to be impactful, for example, this podcast, we don't know who's going to listen. We don't know who's going to listen to us, right? We just didn't. We wanted to engage people in a way that allows us to speak our story, talk history, talk fun stuff, hilarious stuff, imperfect things that we probably regret, 20 years from now. But the putting it out there portion of it, I think is okay. And if people are willing to learn from it, then great. I think the majority of the folks that are engaging in online spewing out things don't necessarily have the care to want to learn. I'm not saying they don't want to do it. I'm just saying 15 years or 20 or 30 years of the way they've been thinking something, you can't change their mind in 15 seconds. If your intent was to critique them to change their mind in 5 lines or 140 characters, whatever, good luck. All right. So I think as someone who wants to kind of critique or engage or hold somebody accountable, unfortunately, the burden is on us to how to find that the most meaningful way to do that. So yeah, you might want to be able to call out a Qbert without knowing him, but maybe the way you call it out is not by calling him out, but calling out whatever the thing is that you don't agree with or that you think is factually wrong. So that when the engagement happens, it's not really attacking the person, because all of a sudden when you're attacking the person, it's heightened emotions, right? It's heightened emotions. And so it becomes emotional and it becomes a mess. So that's where I was going out with like the facts and opinions piece. So unfortunately, we have to take the responsibility, or at least if you are an educator, if you're a man of history or a woman of history, and you want to take those pieces and say, hey, historically, this is actually the truth that you may not know. And putting it out there, I think, is worthy and enough.
A part, I don't know if I'm departing too much, but a critique that I have.
Go for it. Bring it.
That I have of and maybe this is me punching up to, speaking some truth to power is so there's like these community guidelines, right, that a lot of these social media organizations and some of their leaders have been sitting in Senate hearings and things like that. But they've been putting up these community guidelines, and I just feel like they don't seem to protect the people that have similar opinions to myself, and there are times that I've reported things because they've been so harmful, not hurtful. I mean, hurtful for sure, but I know you can't really police hurtfulness, but potentially harmful to people. And we report them and they're like, no, we're going to let it go. But then, that thing came up with, who was it when, in Wisconsin when like there were people were reporting like, armed vigilantes coming together and going in on protesters, and was reported several times, totally harmful. And then it was just like, oh, and that's a very extreme form of call out, right? I mean, they're letting it be known that they're going to be violent, and they weren't stopped. And so part of me also thinks this call out culture is also kind of in this way enabled by the platforms that benefit from this. And that really pisses me off because, how do you go both ways? Like you're gonna protect certain people under community guidelines, or so it seems, because you don't see those kinds of things, but yet here you are trying to make it be known to them, and they don't care. And yeah, so that's where I'm going to call you guys out, major online platforms.
Have you seen Social Dilemma? Any of you?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
It's pretty good. But I mean, a lot of it's actually covered by our Maria Ressa episode about how
the divisiveness.
But then it goes into the addictiveness of social media.
Yeah.
Mm.
And how people can't
Unplug.
can't turn off their phone or can't shut down their accounts.
Yeah, their mood. I get into mood sometimes. Like, okay, I'm gonna go into the comments today.
Yeah, totally.
And then you're like, yeah, this is exactly what I needed. I just needed to. My lower self just needed it for today.
So, could I be completely honest? We didn't talk about this before, but when the whole Barcada thing came out in DC, yeah, the restaurant thing.
Yeah.
That was one time where that's an example of a time where I seriously just did not want to engage at all. I thought it was really, I don't know. I just thought it was like, I don't know.
Say it. Be honest. It's only us.
Reactionary?
I'll own my opinion of that whole situation. When that was going down, not everybody, I'm not going to generalize. Lots of people on the internets, Filipino Twitter, Filipino Instagram combined, were hitting that place hard. And they were going after it for appropriate reasons. I'm not going to lie. Appropriate reasons, right?
Yeah.
But a part of me was like, it's the middle of a pandemic. I don't give a fuck about these 4 white guys trying to open this restaurant called Barcada. It was stupid of them. But it's not my fight to
Wear
fight
masks.
them, right? Like, I was just like, it would be like if 4 white guys try to name a restaurant Amigos, right? Like friends. And they have. And that is stupid. And I'm glad there are enough other people out there to call them out and to basically shame them into being like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But was that my fight? No, because I didn't care about it. That's
Right, you
just
decided.
the truth. And I decided I'm not going to engage because I got enough. There's a pandemic happening. I don't give a shit about this.
No, so I totally felt the same way, but I was also like, let me read the comments and like,
Yeah, I totally dived into the
Let me
comments.
fire
some
yourself
popcorn.
up.
Yeah. But then
I dove
after
into the comments too. Yeah.
after a while, I was like, oh God, this is like, I feel like icky. There's just so much hate. There's just so much vitriol that like I just had to disengage after a while because it was like
Okay.
over something really
Question.
like I felt it wasn't.
Question.
Yeah.
If college you, and go back to college you,
Oh,
do you
yeah,
think
for sure.
college you would be all up in there?
Oh yeah,
Same.
totally.
Joe would be there with a Filipino flag.
Stupid.
Yeah, we were like in South Coast Plaza protesting Abercrombie and Fitch,
Oh wow.
and rightfully so. But like,
Mike, give people context because that's a long time ago. People are not going to know what you're talking about.
So Abercrombie and Fitch was a brand which no one should care about anymore. I don't even know if they exist anymore. They had these T-shirts that had like very stereotypical imagery of like ostensibly like Asian launderer. You know, it was just like a caricature of I guess what should have been like a Chinese launderer with like the hat,
the rice picker hat and all that stuff.
Picker hat and like very like anyways. And like a lot of us in college at the time organized around it, had protests, like stormed the Abercrombie and Fitch, like Ryan from Black Lava, if you're familiar with Black Lava, made a special shirt, like kind of like to protest against
But
that. Like
Mike,
a lot of folks were galvanized by this.
All of that was done in real life. We went to a physical store to protest this. This Barcada stuff happened all on the internet.
Like a
Yeah, but it's
tsunami,
just
felt
as
like.
powerful though, right? Whether it's internet or real life. Like it
True.
drew attention.
I think it depends on the context and the situation. I mean, in this time, like we have to recontextualize how we approach our activism because we are at home.
Yeah.
We can't really I've been to a couple of protests, like Black Lives Matter rallies during this like pandemic, but it's also very different vibe, very different kind of like approach.
Yeah.
And so
A
like a
lot
lot
of
of times
it
we're kind of
feels-
left to like doing this online, especially since this happened in the East Coast, which we're not at. And we can't storm
Yes.
Barcada because we're not on the
Yes.
same coast. And so the tangibility of it's a little bit different for us, but also like,
It's
Go ahead,
the
Kat.
performative nature of it. Sorry. Kat.
Go ahead, Kat.
And sometimes that goes far. Obviously, look, I mean, the impact that it has. That's why we, it's a viable topic. I think even with Barcada, I was feeling somewhere. I was like, yo, I've got a lot going on. But I would go into the comments and I'd be like, yes, you said that right. Like I was like in my own way, I was like cheering
Rooting.
people on because I was like, you're saying the right thing. You go do that because, and part of it was like, and I was totally like, I don't know if I was kind of like profiling in my own way, but like, I know you're in college and you say that. You tell them.
You have the energy. Do it.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I was really like for them. And then there were others because, there were other folks that were just mad, like not, had a different opinion. And then there are the people I disagree with. And then I was like, wah, wah.
All right. I'm going to stir the pot a little bit.
Okay.
Well, I will say just
Ryan.
one last thing with it. I will say that what I appreciated was a friend saw something that like, I think I posted like just a short thing. And then a friend hit me on Messenger. So we had a private conversation. And it was because I have a friendship with this person, and it's someone who I respect and admire deeply. And I also felt comfortable, and I went in with my opinions on the whole Barcada thing, but I felt safe to do that one-on-one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, what I said there, I wouldn't, because I knew it would have attracted a lot of flies, if you will.
Yeah.
So.
Stir the pot, right?
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
But I just wanted to just mention with the Abercrombie and Fitch thing, there was actually just larger. It was a larger issue than just the T-shirts that came out. It was actually
Was that they treated their staff like shit.
yes, and
That's
Anthony.
right.
You could ask Anthony Ocampo because I think he was part of the lawsuit. That
Yes, he
Anyways,
was.
go ahead.
he was.
I had a
Yeah.
bunch of friends in it too.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead. Ryan.
the pot I was going to stir is when you do watch the social media and you're like egging people on, right? And you're like, yeah, I agree with this. And you have your popcorn and everything. And then one of your, you kind of alluded to this, Kat, but like somebody that has a completely different opinion from you. How quick are you like all judgy?
With
Oh,
that
I'm very
person, with that person in particular, because I knew them, I came at it with, but
Right.
I also felt safe to be who I was because they know
Right.
me.
But like, hey, there were comments from there coming from all over the place. Some of those people were people we knew.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of those people were, people that we knew, and you could be on one side going, yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like,
damn it,
that person didn't say that. Where are they coming
like,
from?
oh, I
How
used
quick
to
were you to
like
judge?
you. No.
Right? Canceled.
I know. I'm just gonna quietly unfollow you, mute you for 30 days.
My whole thing with the whole cancel culture and whatnot is like it's just all very performative. Like it's all performative online. Like, look, I'm showing you that I am woke enough to call you out or call something out on being terrible, on being awful, on being bad. And I feel like people get juice on being able to say that they did that.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just like, if you have that much energy to devote on hating on someone online, can you direct that to something else in your own community? I have no idea if you are doing that work, but I would like to hope that like the energy you put attacking somebody on Twitter, can you also put that energy towards like helping out with community care, right? Like, are you also contributing to your actual neighborhood and streets? Because I feel like that there's a disconnect, right? Like there's a dissonance there where like people are just yelling online. And I'm like, oh, are you also doing something else? And I'm not saying like, it's a fucking pandemic. Like you can't really be out there, right? Like everybody has their role in terms of what you can do to help your community. But like shouting from the internet rooftops, like, I don't know how helpful that can be at a certain point. Like, what is the breaking point to transition you to like doing something else?
I think.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think just back to something I think I was alluding to earlier. Like context is key, and like I would say that like some people like maybe they only use the internet to call people out because that's all they have or they're able to do, and not to be like ableist about it. Like like let's recognize that some people can only engage with the world via kind of these ways because of one reason or another. But at the same time, like, we don't know their context and they don't know our context. And so like, and we didn't really get into it. Like, I think like, just is there, I think like, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of like giving people space to kind of like understand and comprehend and connect before like attacking. Like, I don't think we give any space to that at all, but like, I don't know. I mean, like, if there was one thing to kind of come out of this conversation for me is that like somehow or another there has to be a moment in which everyone just takes a deep breath and kind of figures out like, hey, is this worth my energy, and is this person coming from where I think they're coming from, and am I coming from a place in which I can even call that person out? Who am I to judge? To your point, Elaine, am I actually, am I in a position to point out this person's wrong if I'm also in the wrong in a similar or maybe related reason?
Goes back to Jesus.
Yo, throw your stone.
No, you have no sins that you get to throw this brick, yo. See, mom, dad, all that Catholic school training paid off. I remembered at least one story. I mean, in this conversation, I've gone both ways. I've been like,
oh, totally.
F you guys are stupid. Stop yelling at each other. But also being like, I laugh at you for I'm not perfect.
No.
Like, I'm not an expert. Please don't come to me for validation because I'm not going to be able to give it to you because I can barely validate myself.
Yeah, none of us are experts. And these are just like certain opinions. Hopefully just starts a conversation, makes people think. This is not by any means the end all be all conversation to have on whatever we talk about, right? But especially this topic, right? So they'll come at us saying your opinions are wrong, bro. Blah,
Join
blah.
us.
No, it's just we hope that you're all thinking about these things and make your own decisions, and hopefully we come to a place that it's it's more better and harmonious and more just.
Yeah, because who are we to tell you how to call someone out? Because shit, we don't know.
No, what you do is you create a burner Twitter account and then you just go all out, talk shit about everybody else, and not have any accountability whatsoever because you're anonymous.
Yeah.
That's the real way of calling people out. So if you get anything,
Thank you, Joe.
if you get anything from this episode, that's the proper way of calling someone out. No, just kidding. Don't do that. You're stupid if you are.
You're just reminding me of like this is the proper way of how students would like rate other people's like professors. Like I heard this one story that a professor created a bunch of dummy student accounts
Oh, what?
to like give themselves a high rating for their
Oh, wow.
class.
Oh my
So,
God. They
like-
think they're Amazon, huh?
Yes, exactly. Verified student, maybe not. No, but like, don't do that. Like,
Kevin Durant did that.
What?
to flame himself or to flame other people.
No, Kevin Durant created all these burner accounts.
Oh.
Oh yeah. I remember this.
But was that like purposeful to be found out or no?
No. He got called out for creating that account, and then he was all embarrassed.
It all
You can
comes
look
back
it
to
up.
basketball with you guys.
Yeah. It seems like just the responsibility. Like we already know, like you're responsible for what you say, but it comes with so much heft these days, right? It's
Yeah.
just,
'Cause at the end of the day-
and you don't even know how much.
At the end of the day, people just want to talk shit. Let's just be real, right? Like at the end of the day, you just want to be able to talk shit with your buddies who all happen to be on the internet publicly
Or on a group text somehow. No, just kidding.
or on a group text
Or on a podcast.
or on a podcast. But, as Jesus said, yo, if you don't have sins, throw these stones. Wow. Should that be the name of the episode? Throw these stones?
What is there like a title for that story? Like they have like the parables or whatever. Ryan, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Ryan,
title
please-
for that story.
What is it called?
The quote is, "Ye who has no sins, cast the first stone." Right.
Yeah.
So maybe we call it, "Yo, throw the stone." I don't know.
The Stoner's Parable.
Oh my God. Perfect. The Stoner's Parable.
All right. Anything else before we end this? Wrap this up.
Please call us out if we got anything wrong with this episode.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Should we give the voicemail?
Specifically, tag Joe in your tweet.
Yeah.
What the hell?
If you email it, can you put on the subject line calling you out so we can filter it and put it in a folder and not look at it?
Is
Jokes.
this the episode where we don't give the phone number?
Oh no, we should
don't
still
want
give it.
people- All right. What is it, Ryan?
805-394 TFAL.
Yes. Finally memorized it.
Ryan!
I've always memorized it.
What is it, Kat?
Proud.
I don't even know.
Oh, boo.
805 something TFAL.
Yeah.
Do I get it? I
she
have
got
it
half.
almost.
She got
I
two.
got half. I got I got 2/3, right? Okay, that's
Go
my
on, yup.
homework. I should know it.
It's all right, dude. It took Ryan 5 years to figure
Hey.
it out.
Showing me up, cat.
But yeah, if you have opinion about cancel call out culture, call us 805-394 TFAL. And also, if you want to watch these shenanigans live, buy a Zoom ticket.
October
Or
10th.
if you're local to Los Angeles, October 10th. Exclusive. It won't be released. We'll probably talk more shit that you won't be hearing on the podcast.
It'll be a total chismis fest.
Yes. But yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate y'all.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.